International relations can be messy. Think high school drama, but with warships and a lot more at stake. Alliances shift, old friends drift apart, and sometimes they find their way back to each other when the world gets complicated. The US and the Philippines, after years of hot and cold relations, are back together in a big way. Their partnership, once uncertain, is now front and center in the Indo-Pacific spotlight. They've upgraded an old military pact, the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA. This agreement, first signed in 2014, is now getting a major boost as both countries see new reasons to work closely together. This isn't just a handshake, it lets the US expand its military presence in the Philippines. American troops and equipment can now move in and out more easily, making the alliance more flexible and responsive. Imagine giving your friend a spare key, except the house is a chain of islands and the key opens military bases. It's a sign of deep trust and shared concerns about what's happening in the neighborhood. Under EDCA, the US can build facilities and pre-position military assets on Filipino bases. That means new warehouses, runways, and fuel storage, ready for any crisis that might pop up. Recently, the Philippines added 4 new locations, some right next to Taiwan. These sites are strategically chosen, putting US forces closer to potential flashpoints in the region. Why now? The Indo-Pacific is heating up, with China flexing in the South China Sea and eyeing Taiwan. Tensions are rising, and both Washington and Manila are watching closely as Beijing grows more assertive. The Philippines wants strong friends, and the US wants a front-row seat. Both sides see benefits: security, deterrence, and a louder voice in regional affairs. This isn't a return to Cold War megabases, it's about access, not ownership. The days of sprawling American bases are over, replaced by smaller, more agile outposts. The bases stay Filipino, but the US rotates troops and gear through them. It's a partnership, not a takeover, with both sides keeping control of their own turf. It's a way to have a military footprint without the baggage of permanent bases. The arrangement is flexible, allowing both countries to adapt as the security landscape changes. Think of it as a friend who crashes on your couch when needed. You still own the couch, but you're ready to help each other out when things get tough. Both sides know they might need each other soon. With uncertainty looming, they're planning, training, and preparing for whatever comes next. The stakes? Regional security, and maybe much more. In a world where alliances matter more than ever, the US and the Philippines are making sure they're ready for whatever the future holds. Taiwan, once famous for semiconductors and bubble tea, is now the world's hottest flashpoint. China sees Taiwan as a breakaway province, and isn't shy about using force to reunify. For the US, Taiwan is about defending democracy and protecting the global tech supply chain. Taiwan's TSMC makes most of the world's advanced chips. A conflict would be an economic earthquake. For the Philippines, Taiwan is next door. The Batanes Islands are closer to Taiwan than to Manila. If war breaks out, the Philippines is on the front line, not watching from afar. A conflict could spark a refugee crisis and endanger nearly 200,000 Filipino workers in Taiwan. For both Washington and Manila, keeping Taiwan safe is a core national interest. For the US, it's about global leadership and economic stability. For the Philippines, it's about national security and the safety of its people. Taiwan is the load-bearing wall of Indo-Pacific security. If it falls, the whole region could come crashing down. So, what does EDCA actually let the US do? The Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, is a game-changer for both the US and the Philippines, reshaping the military landscape in Southeast Asia. It allows US troops to rotate through Filipino bases and build facilities there, working side by side with their Filipino counterparts. This isn't just about boots on the ground, it's about building infrastructure, sharing technology, and deepening military ties. The US isn't building its own bases, they're guests, but with privileges. They can stay for extended periods, train with local forces, and bring in advanced equipment. Think of it as a long-term Airbnb, but you can install a missile defense system, radar arrays, and other high-tech gear. It's a flexible arrangement that benefits both sides. The US can pre-position equipment and supplies, slashing response times in a crisis. This means that in the event of an emergency, everything needed is already close at hand. Instead of shipping gear from Hawaii, it's already in the Philippines, just minutes from Taiwan. This proximity is a huge advantage for rapid response and deterrence. The 4 new EDCA sites, mostly in northern Luzon and Palawan, are especially close to Taiwan and the South China Sea. These are some of the world's most contested waters, making their location strategically vital. The Luzon bases overlook the Luzon Strait, a key route for any military move on Taiwan. Whoever controls this passage has a major advantage in the region. EDCA gives the US flexibility. Instead of big, obvious bases, it can spread out forces, making them harder to target and more adaptable to changing threats. It's a strategy of not putting all your eggs in one basket. By dispersing assets, the US reduces risk and increases survivability. Distributed, agile, and resilient, that's the new US posture. Forces can move quickly, adapt to new situations, and operate from multiple locations. For China, this complicates any plans for a quick strike. The US presence is now more unpredictable and harder to neutralize. For the US, it's about being ready, without being a sitting duck. They can respond faster, defend better, and deter aggression more effectively. The Philippines gets a security boost and the US gets a strategic edge. Both nations strengthen their alliance and send a clear message to the region. It's a modern answer to an old problem: how to be strong, but not vulnerable. EDCA is about partnership, preparedness, and staying one step ahead in a rapidly changing world. In military strategy, location is everything. Where you position your forces can mean the difference between victory and defeat. The closer you are to the action, the faster you can respond, and the more options you have when things get tense. Before the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, added new sites in the Philippines, the closest major US base to Taiwan was in Okinawa, Japan, about 700 kilometers away. That's a significant distance when every minute counts in a crisis. In a real emergency, that's a long way to travel. It means slower response times, more fuel burned, and more risk of being intercepted or delayed. Now, with new Philippine sites, US forces are less than 400 kilometers from Taiwan. That's nearly half the distance, an absolute game changer for military planners. US jets can scramble and reach Taiwan's airspace in a fraction of the time, and drones can maintain a near constant watch over the region, providing real-time intelligence and early warning. Think of it like moving your fire station right next door to the building most likely to catch fire. When trouble starts, you're already there, ready to act before things get out of control. This new proximity creates a major headache for China's A2/AD, or anti-access/area denial strategy. China's military has spent years building up long-range missiles and defenses designed to keep US forces far away from its shores. But now, with US forces inside the so-called missile bubble, China's advantage is reduced. The US can operate closer, faster, and with more unpredictability. China now faces the challenge of defending its southern flank, stretching its resources and forcing it to divide attention between multiple directions. Imagine playing dodgeball, but now you're being attacked from two sides at once. Dodging and defending becomes much harder, and mistakes are more likely. The Philippine bases give the US not just proximity, but also flexibility, more runways, more staging areas, and more ways to surprise an opponent. For China, this means constantly looking over its shoulder, monitoring new threats, and adjusting its plans on the fly. That's exactly the kind of distraction and deterrence the US wants. By complicating China's calculations, the US hopes to prevent any move against Taiwan before it even starts. The new geography doesn't just shift the front line, it changes the entire strategic equation in the region. For the US, it's a clear strategic win: more options, faster response, and a stronger deterrent posture. For China, it's a new and complex problem to solve, one that will require new strategies and resources to address. China is not happy about the expanded US-Philippines Pact. Beijing calls it a provocation, accusing the US of trying to encircle China and start a new Cold War. China sees the new bases as offensive launch pads, not defensive outposts. Chinese officials warn the Philippines it's risking its autonomy and economic ties. The new bases force China to rethink its military plans for Taiwan, creating a southern front. Diplomatically, China is caught between wooing the Philippines and issuing threats. So far, Manila is betting security matters more than trade. The US move has given China a major strategic headache. Not all Filipinos are thrilled about more US troops. Memories of colonialism and past US bases run deep, fueling protests and fears of lost sovereignty. Critics worry the Philippines could become a target in a US-China conflict. Local communities fear social and environmental fallout, but many in government and defense see the US alliance as essential, especially with China's aggression in the South China Sea. For them, it's about defending territory, not picking sides. The debate is fierce, but the security stakes are real. A war over Taiwan wouldn't stay local. It would shake the entire Indo-Pacific. Civilian casualties and economic chaos would be immediate. Taiwan's chip industry is vital. Disruption would hit the global economy hard. For Japan and South Korea, a Chinese-controlled Taiwan would threaten sea lanes and security. Japan's southern islands are even closer to Taiwan than the Philippines. Southeast Asia would face impossible choices, likely splitting ASEAN. Countries with disputes with China would fear their next. The region could split into US and China-aligned blocs, a new Cold War. Asia's economic miracle could give way to arms races and suspicion. Taiwan's fate could decide the region's future. Does the US-Philippines Pact make war more or less likely? Supporters say it's about deterrence, raising the cost for China to act against Taiwan. The idea show enough strength to prevent a fight. EDCA signals US commitment and aims to keep the peace through credible force. But there's a risk. China could see this as aggression, fueling an arms race. Each side builds up, seeing the other as the threat. Classic security dilemma. The pact is a gamble. It could stabilize the region or push it closer to conflict. Success depends on careful management and how Beijing perceives it. If it deters aggression, it's a diplomatic win. If it provokes China, it could trigger the very war it's meant to prevent. The line between deterrence and provocation is razor thin. The stakes couldn't be higher. The US-Philippines Pact is a game-changer for the Indo-Pacific. It puts US power closer to Taiwan, complicating China's plans and boosting deterrence. For Taiwan, it's both reassuring and risky. Support comes with higher stakes. The region is moving from balancing both superpowers to picking sides. Other countries may follow the Philippines' lead, creating a web of alliances or deepening divisions. The new partnership redraws Asia's strategic map. Whether it brings peace or peril depends on the next moves from all sides. The quiet waters between the Philippines and Taiwan are now the world's storm center.